Hi, my name is Mandolin Royal, and today I'm going to try to explain the various breeding methods, what they can do for you, and how I utilize most of them to see forward progression in flock improvement. We're going to talk a little bit about these pullets here. They are nice and fresh at 25 weeks old, and I'm pretty partial to all three of them. And I think I've got a breeding purpose for each one. Plus some others, but I don't have time to go into all of the birds and all of their particulars. So whenever you look up breeding styles, you'll probably see mention of clan mating, spiral mating, line breeding, pair mating, maybe some other options in there. And I've got to tell you, I don't subscribe to any one particular breeding method. I let the birds tell me what I need to do and when and why. A lot of it is geared towards making sure our freezer has good birds in it. Some of it's for science, to look at trait expression and what's hidden inside of the lines that needs to be expressed, called out, and removed from the flock, while also trying to preserve overall quality and not screwing it up in the meantime. Because you can easily breed yourself into a corner. You could breed yourself into a pickle. And then the act of last resort is doing a line cross in an effort to fix it. Or if you've botched it too bad, you've got to start completely over, especially if the birds that you started with didn't help you get that forward progression. I'm going to try to make this explanation brief and as layman as I can without spending 5 hours on it. There's a lot of details, there's a lot of variables, but at the end of the day, you got to look at your flock goals, the birds in front of you, and how you hope to proceed. So these three girls are relatively consistent with each other. Most of them share the same flaws, as well as sharing the same good points. So these are three birds that I would group together into a pen, and I would find the male that best suits them and throw him in there. And then I'll hatch them, grow them, and see how that was working out for me. If the results are good, we'll save the good birds for future breeding, and if the results were nah, then those go in the freezer. So it serves our overall flock purpose. Hopefully I find something else to learn about, and hopefully I work them towards being a little bit better than their parents. I'm not an exhibition breeder, but I hope to be. But the utility comes first, because a chicken, at the end of the day, I mean, that's your eggs, and that's your meat. Show feathers come later. First, you've got to build the barn. And by the barn, that's the structure, that's the type, it's the fleshing, it's the growth rate, it's the rate of lay. Everything that makes them useful. After that, the stuff to look for is about what makes them a good chicken in terms of their conformation, how well they're put together, how well they function as a chicken. Are they the first ones to run out the door and start feeding themselves off of forage? Or do they hang back and act lazy and do their part to make that feed bill go up? However you want your chickens to be is what you select for. And one of the things that isn't commonly said when you're looking at those different breeding options, they don't mention incredibly lacking that selection piece. Every single bird you put in a pen to hatch from has to be there on merit. You can't just take everything you hatched and then hatch from all of them. You're going to start seeing some funky stuff. You're going to start seeing weird stuff. You're going to see undesirable results. And you're going to have a very call-heavy flock, which is fine for the freezer, but not for taking those incremental baby steps forward in the breeding progression. So these girls, right at 25 weeks old, the first position here, she's 5 pounds 10 ounces. The second one right there, she's 6 pounds 2 ounces. And the one on the end is 6 pounds even. When I handled them, they felt really meaty, especially in the breast. This one had the best earlobes, but we don't really eat those. One of the annoying things about her is the double folded comb. You can kind of see where first it goes to the right and then it goes to the left. But she's been laying for several weeks now. She's acting like she's gonna lay an egg in here. And she's got the structure that I'm after. Her wattles look to be a little crooked. But we can fix that. That's easy stuff. You wanna get up? I'm gonna show us what you look like. She's got good leg color. She's got good feathering. She doesn't have any extra coloration besides what the rooster added onto her back. Her back's long enough. Her tail's low enough but borderline too high. It's a little bit tight, but her bone spacing felt really good. Move to show us the width. She's not in the mood to cooperate. But all in all, pretty decent bird. This one she's been the most active and the most robust and the most talkative. I'd say she's almost a little bit flighty, but she was also the meatiest, the fleshiest, the widest through her bone spacing, and she has the lowest tail angle. She also has the double folded comb, and it's too big. But that's not a total deal breaker. She has excellent width. I'm not going to go in after her too much because she's probably going to start climbing walls if I do. Then we've got the girl on the end. Not perfect, but a pretty good example. Her tail's a little weird, but it's not a squirrel tail. It's definitely not a 45-degree angle, though. But she's got nice and tight feathers, dark leg color. Her comb is also weird. She barely has any white on the earlobes, but the feather pattern's there. The meat is there. She's pretty clean and pretty tidy. All three of them have the lighter eye color that's usually in line with the production flocks overseas that tend towards that yellow orangey eye color. But I'm not going to worry about it. I can find that in a boy. Do you want to cooperate yet? They're in no mood for this, and I can't blame them. But all three of these are really good examples of what I should be hatching from based on the other birds in the flock. They hatched back at the end of September last fall. And I'm going to pull out this middle bird and then pull out a boy. He's new to us. He came from another farm. I'm going to talk about why I'm going to use him and why I like him with these girls. So here's the boy in question that I liked for these girls. What I ended up doing is pulling the middle female out, bouncing her over there. The other one that was in position 1, she was panicking about laying the egg. So I put her back in the home pen and moved this one. But this boy here, check out that width, that tail spread, the white earlobes. His comb has a conjoined spike, which is nothing new to me or this flock. But none of the girls have that conjoined spike, so I can look for good combs in the offspring. But this boy here, he came from the famous North Star Farms in North Carolina. That's operated by Jen. She's doing great things over there. And she's really doing a lot of work in her flock. But a local friend of mine did an order through her, and she liked this boy a lot. And when it came time for processing, this guy got a reprieve to come over here and join my flock for science. So I don't need to do a line cross. I've not put myself into a corner, but I am so experimental that I've got to try it. I want to know how they mesh, how they blend, and how this works out. So he's going to get the 3 ladies I featured here today. He's younger than them. He's not too sure what to think of it. He's got confidence. He's got vigor. He's not as meaty and he's not as fast growing as what my boys will do. But these girls, they're going to help that out a lot, because the females are really, really, really important in building type, building structure, contributing to growth rate. And I put a lot of focus on the females, also the boys, but it takes 2 to tango. And I have hand selected and hand picked out of every single female I have to find the best candidates for this new guy. They're going to get their own pen. We're going to mark those eggs. We're going to track the results. And we're going to see what happens. Now this dude, he's not all the way mature. He's not all the way grown in. They're going to have several months to get to know each other while we wait and see how he develops further. With what I know about the North Star lines, I'm going to have to watch his tail, see if it creeps up high. That's why I specifically pulled out the girl over here with that lower tail set, because that'll help offset it. I'm hoping his earlobes come through. I'm hoping he helps out with the funky combs without making them funkier. And I'm hoping that the girls add on to that growth rate and the fleshing and the feel of them. He was a little tight feeling in the back end pelvic spacing. It was just 1 finger. But with these girls having a pretty predictable 2-finger width, we should be able to find some offspring that correct that. I'll have to pay close attention to the offspring. I'll have to watch their growth rate. I'll have to weigh the offspring every 2 weeks to see who's doing the best job at that. Because I don't want to take steps back in the breeding program. I want to gain that forward momentum. But I'm certainly not going to let this guy breed every hen I have, because he's brand new. He's unpredictable. We don't know. We got to try it and see. So we're going to do that with 3 females off in a corner pen. We're not going to put all of our eggs in one basket. And I think I'm going to pull a boy from a similar age group that I have and let you see that comparison. I found it interesting when I did that. So this will be an experimental line cross, which is another breeding method that some people rely on, and they do it on a schedule. I don't. I do it just because. For science. But let me get this noisy pellet out of here and stick another boy over there, because I'm curious to see the differences in the bloodlines. So far, I mean, he's only been here not too long. I like his temperament. I like his style. We're gonna watch and see how he continues to grow. He's got a couple of pieces I need, like those darker legs on a boy. That's a trait that's a little bit elusive to me. Most of my boys like to have a lighter leg color, where the females will come up with a darker leg color. That's a mystery I haven't unraveled yet. But he's also kind of similar to what I have, and that's intriguing. So let me go ahead and swap out that girl and get another boy in there, so we can talk more about comparisons and compatible breeding arrangements. Alright, so here's my boy on the left and the North Star Farm boy on the right. They're eyeing each other up, as they'll do. And what I'm looking for is the differences between them. Besides developmentally, they are about 3 weeks apart in age. Back length is different. Tail thickness and tail spread is different. Leg color is different. My guy is paler in the leg. Both of them have that fairly typical shallow chest. My guy's got the red earlobes, also typical. Both of them have pretty good wing sets that are pretty tidy. And both of them need a lot more growth to really see what kind of bird they're going to be. They're on the right track, but we'll see what they're like when they're a full year. And then we'll see what they're like when they're a year and a half. And then we'll see what they're like when they're 2. And by the time that they're 2, we're going to have offspring telling us what kind of stuff they're throwing forward. And that's the trick of it, is tracking what the birds throw forward within a breeding arrangement. So if you use a clan style method, that is diverse and very loose breeding. You cannot go back and figure out what flaw came from what bird when you have 30 birds or so in a single pen. There's no way to track anything. You've just got to grow out those offspring, find the better ones, and leave any questions up to the mystery that they are. Because there's no record keeping, besides knowing how many of what kind you put in there. Other than that, there's no details to be found. Now, if you pair hatched from each of these boys with the same female, and you can do that within the same season, one guy gets her for the beginning part of the season, the other guy gets her for the second part of the season, and then you can figure out which male with that particular female threw a better result. And if you really want to nitpick, that's how you do that, while giving a minimum of 30 days in between, maybe even up to 3 months, to ensure parentage. I mean, it'll get as complicated as you make it. Both of these guys, since they're totally unrelated from each other, they could pop into a spiral program And that's where all the daughters go back to their mother's pen, and you rotate the boys through those pens, and you change them every season. You need a minimum of 3 different coops to do that. 5 would be better. They're so different. So this guy has a wider leg spread than this one, but this one has wider pelvic spacing that you can't see from looking at him. You can only feel it. This guy has ever so slightly darker eye color, but this camera doesn't really show it. I love getting a new experiment though. I'm excited to see what the North Star boy throws. Since he's the only one here from that line, I might go ahead and call him North Star. That way we know whenever he's in a future video. This guy doesn't have a name. Nothing has jumped out at me. He's had good vigor, good health, good growth. He feels nice and meaty. But nothing really stands out as dramatically different to name him off of. But he's going to get a similar set of females. Ones that don't share his flaws. Ones that help fix his flaws. And I'm going to try really hard to get that chest depth in there. I've gotten the length and I've gotten the width. The final piece of the barn to build is that chest depth. The new boy, he's not really going to help with that. He has the same sort of chest as the rest of them. And that's pretty typical in the breed, so that's going to be a long haul effort to work on. He wants to go back to his home pen. But let me go ahead and get these birds put up. Hopefully I gave you something to think about. And some things to look for in your flock when you're figuring out your breeding arrangements and how you want to go about it. The more spaces you build to put birds, the more nitpicky you can set up your breeding arrangements. If you have one pen, I mean, you're pretty much doing one pen of hatching. You're not going to be able to isolate what's happening genetically in all of the different scenarios. You'll just have to sort out the offspring and figure out who's freezer bound and who's going to stick around for the following season. And for utility, that's fine. I do a lot of that. We eat a lot of chicken. And I really like to see the range of what birds throw forward. And one of my favorite things to do is to sort and organize poultry and looking at the results. But I am starting to get to the point where I want to know the why and the how, which is going to drive me into pair hatching so that I understand more about that genetic expression of the desired traits. Besides filling the freezer up, that's what breeding is all about. So feel free to like and subscribe as I get through this next season. Season number 7. Since I first started with this breed that has sucked me in. We've dropped down to just the one breed. I like it. We'll see where it goes.